Hey, I'm Charlie from Soundhouse here with Luke Concannon. How are you doing today?
Hey Charlie, I'm really happy to get to talk with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. It's 7 p.m. for me, but it's just gone 2 p.m. for you, and it's a really nice day outside here. I'm not sure about there so much, but things are going well.
Lovely, lovely. Um, yeah, out here it's super rainy and cold. And
Um,
looking at my desktop here, it says that you're 10 degrees Celsius warmer than we are.
oh no, I'm really sorry. I was sat in the garden just with my guitar and my phone, and I was just like jamming. It was actually really cool. Should come back. No. Anyway, Mr. Concannon, do you remember your very first musical memory?
Wow, that's such a sweet question. Um, One memory I have is my dad built these speakers. It was back in the day where, like, I was born in the 78, um, and he bought this kit and he built speakers and had built a record deck. And I just remember these speakers were on the floor. They were kind of cylindrical, and I remember crawling over to them and just really listening to what was coming out of them. Um, yeah. Oh, and one other one. One other memory is my dad came to school to pick me up one evening. I must have been five or so, and he brought his little tin whistle with him. He'd been playing
Right,
tin whistle just for 2 or 3 years then, and he played this Irish song called "The Lonesome Boatman." Um,
right.
da 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 ba da ba da da ba da ba. Da ba da ba da ba da da ba da da da. And I just loved it. I was just like, Dad, this is magic. He's making this thing happen in the playground while we walk home. So there you go. Those are two early memories.
Brilliant. Do you remember the first piece of music that you ever bought?
I do. Um, I said to my mum, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents when I was little, and I said, Mum, on Top of the Pops, there was this amazing guy, and he sang this song called Fast Car, and
Hmm.
she was like, that's a woman, Luke. I was like, no, no, it was a man. Um, and just because Tracy Chapman sang with in that low, relaxed register, so I yeah, so that was, and so I asked Mum if she'd get me the single. So I think I was like 11 or something. But that song, Fast Car, Tracy Chapman, it just rang a bell inside me. I think that combination of like African American soul music and folk music has always been just like from the heart music for me, and I think for everybody. That's why she was so big.
Yeah. You just mentioned that Tracy Chapman's Fast Car really, in your words, rang a bell in you when you were quite little. You still, at least the last time I saw you, I think, play that song live. So even as you've got older and your sort of songwriting styles have changed, has it always still come back to a very similar place?
Wow. Thanks for these lovely questions. They're so thoughtful, and I'm touched by the thoughtfulness. Uh, yeah, my my mentor Alistair McIntosh, who Nizlopi on Extraordinary EP, we did a song with him called "Homage to Young Men," and he's just a firebrand, an activist, and one of the many things he said to me over the years was like to go as deep as he said, go as deep as you can when you're writing and singing, until your music is the breath of the divine, with his words. So that as if deep down inside there's something, that's where the music is coming from, at the center of our being. And I feel that's sort of true. And anyway, so in answer to your question, has it always come from a similar place? I think it has,
Mhm.
and I try and go there, and it's actually often quite simple and quite basic when you go there because it gets to the heart of the matter. And there's also something quite sweet about elaboration too. You know, to make a really good, simple cake, but then with like, you know, an exciting design on it that's, you know, complicated and tricky to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of some. I think that's what I'm aiming at with music, to keep it from the heart and simple, but also to have the ability to be elaborate if it needs to be there, or abstract if it needs it, but only if it needs it. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense. In that case, in a similar vein, you obviously, before you moved to America, you did some tours and some albums with Nizlopi, and then you did the same as a solo artist. What's the dynamic like when you're writing a Nizlopi song versus writing a Luke Concannon song?
Well, John's such a gift, you know, like John, the other half in Nizlopi. He's just a feckin' whiz kid. And he was when he was 12, 13, when we first started playing together. He was a whiz back then. And he's just continued. So what's cool about playing with him is he'll often play a riff that is outside of my sensibility. It's something that I wouldn't have come up with myself.
Yeah.
And it'll excite me because it's different. It's like a friend coming to you and, you know, telling a story that one could never have imagined, and it brings out something else. So that's what it's like writing with him. It's also really cool because he's so determined and committed. He'll just stand there for 4 hours playing the same thing whilst I try different ideas and different lyrics and go deeper and try and get it right. He's very patient and very talented, so that's a bit of a fucking dream, really. And then writing on my own, the difference there is that the sort of ideas that I might be really shy of expressing in front of somebody else, like singing about my dad in a JCB, or singing something very kind of sensitive and romantic, or singing about sexuality or politics, the sort of things that, you know, are a bit raw and hard to experiment with in front of somebody else. I can do that when I'm on my own. And another sweet thing about working alone is, like, for example, I run down to the sort of lake that's a mile from this house in the mornings often, and I can just stand there next to the lake for 2 hours trying to, you know, working on something. Whereas if I'm working with somebody else, they might want to look at this, look at that, look at the other. And the other cool thing about working alone is that I can really go deeply into my sense of musicality and of lyric, and take a lot of time in silence trying to dream up the next thing. Because it takes silence often to get to the next place. It's sort of digging deeper and deeper. But if I'm working with somebody else, I'm not yet at the stage in a writing relationship when I can say, can we just stand here and be silent until I come up with a new idea?
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
So there's not so much writing going on for Nizlopi right now, because obviously you and John are separated by the Atlantic Ocean, which could probably, that big double bass wouldn't probably pick up as well.
Yeah.
Are you working on a follow-up to your solo record?
Yeah, you know, it's amazing really, because that came out I recorded that 2012. It's been years, and my intention was to be releasing much more regularly. And what tends to happen is that it gets overwhelming to promote, to tour, to try and book things in. And so it slows down the writing process. Since I got here, because I haven't got a tour or anything like that, I can just write. So I'm really loving that. And yeah, in the last sort of 3 weeks, I've written about eight or nine songs, and I'm really enjoying them. Maybe I'll play you one at some point on this interview. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Is there a plan set in place to record in a few weeks, months, or are they just there ready for when you get the spark and go, right, I'm going to record now?
Well, I'm finding that, as I said to you before we started recording the interview, I'm working with this mentor who's just really helping me get fresh with things again.
Yeah.
And it's just made me rethink, because I was thinking, right, in the autumn and in the winter I'll write and record and see where we go. Whereas now I'm just like, fuck it, I want to write now. Why, what's more important really? If we're artists, what's more important than making art and going out and playing it to people? So I've been doing that again. Been playing open mics a lot and writing in the mornings. So in the answer to your question, yeah, I am writing now, and I'm getting a plan. How do I want to do it next?
Yeah.
In this age, it seems like one way people seem to do it now is just like write a song, make a video, release it. Write a song, make a video. You know what I mean? Some people just don't even put out albums because it's just like everything's changed so much. So I've got to figure it out, but I'm definitely wanting to share more stuff. I posted a new song a couple of weeks ago. I don't know whether you saw that.
Wow, no, I haven't. I'll check it out as soon as we're done here. Oh, I'm really excited now.
It's called Everyone Is in Love with Her.
Oh, that's brilliant. So, if there's not really a plan set in place, have you got any sort of, not direction, but is there, how are you feeling? Because you said, oh, I want to write now. Are you feeling like you want to write, or are you feeling, actually, no, we can lay off on these for a while and do something else?
So what I'm hearing in your question is, being in a new place with not a totally set plan yet. Does it feel directionless, or do I feel I've got a bit of a clear sense of direction?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Mm.
Yeah. I really do feel like I've got a clear sense. I've got, a vision of making a life here with Stephanie, my girlfriend, and coming back and doing stuff in Europe when I can. I'm definitely, of course I want to do a new album, and I'm writing, and I'm doing a 2-month tour here in May and June, playing like in Vermont, in Maine, in Ohio, Illinois,
Wow.
Indiana, and that's all on my website, lukeconcannon.com. So yeah, I've got a plan, and it's just really like make great shit, play it to people, and then and the next part of my plan is like I want to just be making putting lots of videos out of the songs and finding ways now as an independent artist to connect. And I also want to teach. I want to mentor artists and teach workshops, because I've been at this thing for like 25 years now. So hopefully I've got something to teach.
Brilliant. So you mentioned that in the recording sessions, especially, things can change, and it can just be a case of you to do something for hours and hours, and then like a new idea comes up. On your YouTube channel, you've got like alternate takes of songs. So there's alternate take of "Be Happy" of Women's Song. What is it specifically? Not what stops them being on the album, but is there a reason that they got reworked, or is it just when you did another take, that one just happened to go differently and you preferred it? Should I reword that? That was quite nasty.
No, it was lovely. That's grand.
Right.
It's grand. It makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know? I wasn't aware that they were that different. Those takes were really. So we recorded the album in that kind of a setup, but we didn't have the video cameras there. We just, we were just in record mode. And then at the end of the week, we invited the video cameras in, and we just did the whole album for them like that. So those are those videos.
Wow.
And yeah. But in terms of why does some takes make it and some takes not, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at that particular point, I was feeling very driven. And so sometimes, like that song, I Want to Be Free, about my nan, that was like take 17 or something, and with the whole band. And there were a few points in the recording process where like the drummer just walked out of the room, and I was like, oh no, I've like really annoyed him. But he was just like, no, I just needed some tea, and then he came back like 20 minutes later. But there were points where people were like, Luke, we think that's a good enough take, and I was like, nope. It was just like driving us. But I just had this vision, you know, the name of the album was Give It All, and I had this vision of just giving it everything I had and inviting the people I was with to do that too. But I didn't want to kill them either.
Brilliant. So you mentioned being in America, obviously very much away from where you've built like your musical base, I guess. You're writing a lot of solo stuff. Yeah. But you also speak very fondly of writing with John and like playing Nizlopi shows. Is it obviously not part of your plan because you said it's sort of early stages, but do you think in the future we might see something more from Nizlopi?
Yeah, I really don't know. Like, my gut feeling is yes, and John and I have said we want to do work together again. And what we found, so, you know, we stopped Nizlopi from 2009 till 2013, and then we did like 3 years of doing it a bit along with the other things we were doing. Yeah. It was just too hard to serve two masters, you know, to serve Nizlopi and my own thing, and John to do the same, splitting between his other things. I think I just want to go for broke with what I'm doing, and I would absolutely love it if John and I could, maybe if in 3 years I've released a couple of great albums and made a career, and then we could just go, fuck it, let's just spend a year together, record an album, play some great shows, and just be like, there you go, feck you, Ed Sheeran, this is a better Nizlopi album than your album.
Whoa! Everyone will go, whoa, look, Luke Concannon, like all the Americans that don't know Nizlopi, he's in a band before. You just passed reference to Mr. Sheeran, who, I don't know how many people would know this, but way back in the day, he was your roadie, and he always sort of speaks fondly of you and says he takes a lot of inspiration from you. And one of his first sort of features on one of those like unsigned artist channels, he played your song.
Yeah.
Looking at the way he's turned out, do you see your influences directly in that, particularly like with his newest album? Because it sounds just like you.
Some of it. What I felt listening to it was I felt inspired. I'm feeling a bit guilty now for saying "feck you, Ed Sheeran," because that's not what I mean. What I mean is, like sometimes it can be hard to have been an underground act. We deliberately chose to be independent and to stick with our values. And it's sometimes a little bit hard when I go and play somewhere and people say, "You sound like Ed Sheeran," and I'm like, no, he sounds like me. You know what I mean? And no, I have no issue with. I feel thrilled that he was inspired by us, and it's really cool because we didn't have like huge self-esteem, John and I. So it's pretty amazing to see now. So, someone who's doing something similar to what we did, being like the biggest artist in the world. Yeah. We never thought that would be possible for us. We just wanted to make something righteous and great and independent and be ourselves. But yeah, but I think, what was your question again?
It was, do you see your influences directly in his music now he's like sort of 3 or 4 albums into his career?
Yeah. So what was cool about listening to Divide, his new album, like I loved like that first song, Eraser. Mm-hmm. Listening to people like Lauryn Hill, who was a soul singer with some sort of folky elements, who was also a fucking brilliant MC. I was just like, wow, this is so cool. And then, Nizlopi doing our thing where we were mixing folk and soul and jazz and hip hop.
Yeah.
That was totally my dream as a writer, was be like, wow, wouldn't it be fun to be able to do all of this? Like, to be able to make great music as a band and throw in like real sort of traditional sounding stuff, that from the roots that we grew up with, and hip hop. And I think listening to Ed do that Eraser song, that's a real folk melody. I'm well aware that certain things that can destroy a man like me. But that being said, give me one more. It's really sort of Celtic. So yeah, I was loving that, and I really love that Galway Girl song. It's like an Irish, it's like an Irish folk rap song. So yeah, we felt like we started folk hip hop, and we feel like he has made it mainstream, and it's fucking fun, man.
When's the Ed Sheeran and Luke Concannon tour going to happen then?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of artists that are asking when their tour with Ed Sheeran's going to happen. Because obviously, like, currently if I go out and play a show here, maybe no one will turn up.
Oh.
Whereas, if Ed goes and plays a show here, maybe, I don't know. He played Madison Square Garden like 4 years ago, I think. So now, yeah, he's huge, and it would be wicked to do stuff with him. He's just in big demand, so we'll see how we go. Yeah. We'll see how we go.
Well, that's it. Has there been any sort of, like, do you still speak to him about that sort of thing, like about music and stuff, or?
Yeah, well, I get in touch with him now and then on like Twitter direct message. Yeah, because we both follow each other, and I think that's one way of him managing his contacts, because only people who he follows will he get in his inbox. Yeah. So yeah, the odd message with him, and I remember asking him a couple of years ago, like, oh, do you know any like independent labels that might dig my thing? And then I felt a bit bad, because the fact is, everybody asks him for things. Because he's the one really successful person out of our scene. There's been, I've played with so many musicians over the year, and he's the one who's really, really made it. And well, in the mainstream, and so everybody asks him for things. So I don't want to be that guy.
That's true, but on the same token, I'm not sure if you should feel bad, because I feel like as we just discussed, a lot of sort of his musical direction came from you. So I feel like it's not as if you're just someone saying, "Oh, Ed."
Yeah.
Like, you're Luke Concannon.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, and yeah, that's a good point. I think it's easy to get shy about asking for help, but it's also a really good idea, isn't it? So thank you. Yeah. He's going to be playing in Boston in the fall, and I'm going to see him. So I'll think of I'll think of the one thing. I'm going to write him a kick-ass song and be like, bruv, we're together. Let's just do a version of it for YouTube now. Do you know what I mean? That would be a good way. I'll write him a kick-ass song, and we'll do it for YouTube together.
Brilliant. Give him my name.
That'll get me an extra 200,000 Twitter followers. All waiting for the next time I do something with that.
Oh no. All right. So you completely threw me off with that last part. Oh, right. So where you're in America now, and obviously a lot of your fan base and your followership was built up in the UK, is it because obviously you had that number one back, oh God, a while ago, does it take off the pressure to sort of play the older songs where it's a different sort of clientele that might not know you, and do you like experiment more with the set list?
Yeah, well, here really now, but I'm just playing some open mics, because I've not got a work visa yet, so I can't do anything else. But yeah, when I play them, what I'm liking doing is writing a song and then as quickly as possible trying to just debut it at an open mic. Because it's a buzz, it means I'm going out there like a completely new artist, because I basically haven't finished this song yet, and I've got to play it as well as I can.
Yeah.
And also, it's like it's new for me and it's new for them. But then you know what? I played this one open mic here that's a good one, the Lizard Lounge, and I played it about 5 times now. And the first few times I was just getting my head into the way the Americans do things here, because it's like a competition. I'm just not used to that. I've got this theory that Americans do everything the way that of like a Wild West showdown. Everything's got to be like a guns at dawn. It's a showdown. Who's the greatest? Who's the greatest singer-songwriter in the room? Everybody else is going to be dead but me. Yeah, it took me a while to get into it. But then last night, I said, "Oh, I'm going to play you a song now that was a #1 in the UK," and you know, I just sort of outed myself as a successful musician. And I don't know whether I played a new song first that's really good, but afterwards, suddenly more people were wanting to talk to me. You know, and I was a bit like. There's something about status and power. It's so weird because I was the same artist playing the same sort of music, but after I'd said that, I got a bit more love and attention and stuff. But I don't know. I'm just going to think it was because I'm writing brilliant new songs that people wanted to talk to me.
Of course. So even though you have been established in the UK for a while, there was a point when you were starting out in the UK.
Yeah.
How did that differ to sort of restarting in the US? How do the crowds differ for new acts?
It's real interesting because, you know, Nizlopi, in terms of getting an audience, we were starting 2002. So 15 years ago. And that was a situation where we were playing open mics in London. And it was interesting, you know, because they were rammed. In the end, we ended up mainly just playing Kashmir Club, which was the best one, really. And Spice of Life, which I think is still going. Because they were just two where people actually listened, because there's a lot of open mics where people don't listen. In truth, here it's pretty similar. There's less people at open mics here. I don't know whether that's just a general trend that people don't go to open mics as much as they used to. Also here, in Boston, you've got schools like Berkeley, which is one of, if not the premier contemporary music university in the whole world. And so, you know, there's people dropping into open mics from all over the world who are some of the best musicians in the world. You know, they're practicing every day with the best teachers, the best composition lessons. You know, what's his name? Your man who did that? Waiting on the world to change. Who was that? Do you know?
Oh, it's I have no idea.
Anyway, he went Berkeley. There's you know, so an interesting thing about playing here is that you've got a really high standard. You know, either people who went to Berkeley and are still singer-songwriters in this town, or they're at Berkeley now. There was one guy called Elliot Taylor from Newcastle who's studying at Berkeley, and he played last week, and he's shit hot, man. It was like, it was somewhere between Jamie Lawson's I Wasn't Expecting That and some of the sort of guitar wizardry of that ginger dude with the dreadlocks. What's his name?
I thought you just conceived that ginger dude. I was like, not him again.
No, this is the ginger dude before that ginger dude. Anyway, yeah. So there's some real high quality stuff. And starting out again here is just, I'm a grown man now, so I've got some tricks up my sleeve, which is good because I don't have a John with me. Do you know what I mean? I don't have an absolute virtuoso sort of machine alongside me playing a really unusual, interesting instrument and beatboxing. You know, that's a massive selling point. So if I've not got that, I've just got to make myself a lot better. So I'm like Rocky. Every morning I'm up at 6. I'm training. Do you know what I mean? I'm chasing chickens and lifting logs and fighting bears.
Right. So we spoke about sort of collabing with Ed on your next YouTube hit sensation and getting back into it with sort of John, have you met anyone while you've been in America who you think, oh, I'd really like to collaborate with them?
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Jeez, you got the best questions, Charlie. Well, an artist that's been inspiring me the last few years is someone called Anais Mitchell from Vermont. She won the Radio for Folk Awards for her album like a couple of years ago. She's just a real grown-up writer, you know. You get to my age, and people like Leonard Cohen and Steve Earle, Richard Thompson, these sort of grown-up songwriters, Chris Wood, start really speaking to me because, because there's a lot of very young songwriters, and some of them are freaking brilliant, but they're just not got the depth that comes with age often, and craft, you know. Richard Thompson writes songs 8 hours in a row, and I think that's where you go deep. So, so Anais Mitchell is like that. I really like, I really like Kendrick Lamar. You know, maybe he'd be up for a collab.
You don't know if you don't ask.
That's it. But then in terms of
cool?
In terms of local people, I got in touch with that Elliot Taylor kid I was telling you about from Newcastle, I'm connecting with people to collab with here.
He's from Newcastle, like England?
Upon Tyne, yeah.
So does that mean that he knew the JCB song?
Yeah, it was well funny.
Oh, that must have been weird.
It was well funny because he's like, 10 years younger than me probably as well, and so he would have been a kid when it was out. So it gives you that extra kind of weird thing, when you're, I heard this when I was 5. It's funny.
Brilliant. All right, what's your favorite snack and what's your favorite soft drink?
Oh, wow. Favorite snack. Hummus with fresh bread in the Arab Quarter of Jerusalem.
Tell me, Mr. Concannon, what is special about hummus with fresh bread in the Arab Quarter of Jerusalem?
Well, that's just what comes to me, right? Because, I hitchhiked to Palestine and when people say, "Oh, British food's rubbish," and we're like, "No, it's not. Roast dinners and sticky toffee pudding with custard, it's great," and that is great. But the difference is that in a lot of parts of the world, they just grow it there and they make it there and they serve it that day. So the bread has come straight out of a clay oven, been made by hand. The chickpeas have been ground just there, and it's part of their culture. Like the French are like that, aren't they? It's like part of their culture to make food well. So anyway, that's why that's good. And soft drink wise, it's another Arabic one. It's avocado milkshake, Arabic style. So with like the nuts and the honey and the rose water in it, and it's friggin' delicious.
Well, I can't imagine there's too much of that up in the northeast of America, though.
Nah. Do you know what? They've got everything here. Everybody's here. It's like London, there's like Palestinian cafes and that. But you're right. I've not found yet a place here that does an avocado milkshake. But yeah.
Brilliant. All right. Which song that you've already released are you most proud of, and which song have you not yet shared with us that you're most excited for?
Oh, sweet. Do you know, the song that comes to me is Around the World. Because it's just so full of feckin' balls. It's so full of life and joy. And it's about what I'm really about, which is like we can do this. Like if we go for broke, then it's the idea that we can fucking go for broke together from the heart, with love, and great things can happen. We are beaten down by life and we are beaten up by life, but that song was coming from a place in me that was like, fuck it, What the fuck? I don't give a fuck about that. I'm going to go for broke. And, you know, human race may die out, you know. That might happen. In the next 100 years, we might kill ourselves through climate change or nuclear war or dumb shit. But also, like, that's not the question in a way. It's just like, why don't we just do our fucking best? Why don't we just go for broke together? And that's not in a kind of a, like, pump the testosterone. It's just like, it's faith that if we do our best, then that's the sort of life we want to live, you know? It's worth taking risks. So anyway, there you go. Yeah. Second part of the question. I'm working on a song today. Shall I play it for you?
Please do.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I'll just grab my guitar. It'll just take me 2 minutes by. 1 second. World exclusive.
Oh.
Coming right up. Oh, that's a mini fib because I did play this at the open mic last night.
Ooh.
I've been writing more of it this morning. I'm gonna unplug the headphones. If that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll mute my mic anyway.
Okay. Yeah, so I started writing this last week and I'm enjoying it. I am lost inside and I am learning to untangle the knots I got given at birth. I am falling down, afraid of the briars. She a quiet pilgrim who waits for me to begin. She says I love it when you open up to me. I love it when we are both in the sea together. In the dance, and I can hear the music of future children celebrating. They say I love it when you open up to me. I love it when we both are in the sea together. Siri decided to get in on that song with us there, amazingly enough. But you know, there's a bit of a taste